Arnold. All right, welcome to the Dean Arnold Podcast, August 2nd. And this intro seems to have gone smoothly well. I seem to have choked a few times last couple of 3 days, but I think we're in good shape today. August 2nd. Dean Arnold for Congress. This is Dean Arnold's podcast. Vote for me in November. Actually, you can vote for me next week on Thursday if you write me in the Republican primary. But you can vote for me on the ballot November 3rd as an independent. Okay, I'm bringing sanity to an insane world. You already know that. Like, share, subscribe, comments, questions are welcome. If you're live streaming with me, I'd appreciate that. Today, we're going to talk about just a funny story from back in my college days. What's in a name? It kind of has to do with my name, you'll see. And it's kind of, it's short and it's lighthearted. We've had a tough week. The first day of the week, we talked about the hardest verse in the Bible, which I'm not even going to tell you what the verse is. It's so hard. Then we talked about the epidemic of human sacrifice in the Americas before the Spanish arrived, the Europeans. We talked about the Roman Catholic Church being really 1,000 years old and not 2,000 years old like the Orthodox Church. We've talked about what is the original religion of your soil. In Chattanooga, you got Spanish claims. You've got English claims, the claims of Virginia, North Carolina, the Cherokee Nation. That was pretty good, but still not lighthearted. Today, we're going to be lighthearted. So let's do that. And I don't think it's going to be too long today. I always say that, but they seem to get longer and longer. Okay, let me bring this up just a little bit here. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 3. How much of this do I read? Because it's a long passage. Paul's talking about being a master builder. He's building this building. He lays the foundation, which is Jesus Christ. You have to use the same foundation. And people build with various things: gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, and straw. Some of the older translations say stubble instead of straw. Wood, hay, and stubble, which, I don't know, it kind of has a better ring to it. Each one's work will become clear, for the day will declare it. It'll be revealed by fire. And the fire will test each one's work of what sort it is. If it's wood, hay, and stubble, it gets burned. And if it's precious stones and gold and silver and other stones, it's going to last. A few things to talk about here. One is, remember that podcast we did about whether the world's going to be destroyed by fire? Well, half the church fathers think that's literal, and another half the church fathers say it's sort of a metaphorical sense of our psyches, our life, our good works, whatever, being burned by fire, and us being coming out, like gold in a furnace. And that's what this passage seems to be talking about. Then they got this one strange verse. My very, very close friend who's an Orthodox priest, he says, very strange verse. Verse 15, if anyone's work is burned, he will suffer loss, but he himself will be saved, yet so as through fire. Whatever that means. And I guess it means that there's a sense of where you can have personal salvation, but everything you worked for comes to naught. So that's interesting. So we're really trying to accomplish something while we're here. It's not just about life insurance and making sure our soul goes to heaven. We're actually involved in building the kingdom of God, and there's something left to leave. So that's interesting stuff. What's the difference between gold, silver, and stone? In contrasting to wood, hay, and straw or stubble? I don't know. It's a good question. And I don't feel like I've gotten a lot of answers today. I got a lot of just questions. Let's move on to the gospel of the day. Okay, this is where Jesus, he and the disciples are in a boat on the shore of the lake, and he goes up to pray for a long time, and they wait for him. But it's the fourth watch of the night now, and the boat is now in the middle of the sea, tossed to and fro, for the wind was contrary. So Jesus comes down and he walks on the water up to where the boat is. Well, just some insights of mine, which may or may not be true, and I don't know. But my first question is, why is the boat in the middle of the sea? Jesus left them there on the shore. He goes up and prays for a long time. Why is the boat now in the middle of the sea? Well, it could be that just they didn't anchor down very well. It just doesn't seem right, and the winds and the waves sent it out to the middle of the sea, and they were on the boat the whole time. What makes more sense to me is that they still, because they struggled with faith and that sort of thing, they still thought they had to get some fish, make some money, eat some food. And so they disanchored and went out to the middle to fish. That's why they were out there. So lack of faith. So that was the beginning of their lack of faith. And when Jesus finally walks on the water to come out and join them, they think he's a ghost. And they're full of fear, and there's more faith. So lack of faith combines with more lack of faith until they think Jesus is a ghost. Now, I've only got one more insight from this passage to share, and that is verse 28. Peter said to him, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. And he says, come. So Peter came out to the water. But when he saw the wind was boisterous, he was afraid, and he began to sink, and he cried out, Lord, save me. And then Jesus says, oh, you have little faith. Why did you doubt? Okay, it's a great story. It's a classic story, of course. But the one thing I just want to say, I'm not that big of a Peter fan. He kind of up and down and crazy. But, I mean, let's give him some cred here. He sees Jesus standing on the water, and he says, hey, just say the word, and I'm going to come out there and join you. That's a pretty good faith. He walks on the water, and he's getting to Jesus. He sees the wind around them, and then he kind of has a lapse, and he starts to fall in the water, and Jesus picks him up and says, you have little faith. Well, I'm thinking, hey, Peter, you have a lot of faith. That's pretty manning up there, walking out on water. Yeah, you did fail at the end. But I just want to give Peter a little bit of credit. Nobody else, he was the only one. Nobody else walked out there. So let's give Peter a little credit, but he didn't have the full faith, and all the rest of them didn't even believe they're going to get a meal tomorrow. And so they're out there in the middle of the lake fishing, if my theory is correct. Okay, that's all I got. Let's go to the saint stories today. It's the only one we're going to talk about, the translation of the relics of Stephen. So our friend Stephen, the proto-martyr, the archdeacon, the one who stood before the Sanhedrin in the book of Acts and gave this incredible sermon about the history of Israel, and then he pointed at the Jews and said, you killed Christ. Of course, they killed him for that. But what this story tells us today is very interesting. The Jews left Stephen's body unburied to be devoured by the beasts and the birds. After a day and a night, the renowned Jewish leader of the law, teacher of the law, Gamaliel, sent people to take up the body of Stephen, and he buried him on his own property in his own tomb not far from Jerusalem. Remember Gamaliel? He was the one in the book of Acts when the Sanhedrin really wanted to kill, I think, like Peter and John. Forget who it was. And Gamaliel stood up and he said, hey, look, just let these guys go. If this thing's of God, we can't stop it. If it's not of God, it'll dissipate on its own. What else do we know about Gamaliel? Who was he the teacher of? The Apostle Paul. He was Paul's teacher in the law. So this Gamaliel guy, very interesting guy. And I often wonder when I read the book of Acts, I'd say, what happened to this guy? Who was this guy? He sort of is being kind to the Christians. Is he a believer or not? Well, this passage here about the relics of Stephen seems to say that he was. Seems to be a secret believer, because he also buried Nicodemus in that same grave, who was also a secret believer in Christ, secret admirer. And he had a son who died at age 20 named Abibus. And then Gamaliel himself was buried in this tomb. Let's see. In the year 415, the relics of St. Stephen and the others were recovered in a miraculous manner, and they were brought to Jerusalem by Bishop John. And healing took place from the relics. Afterward, during the reign of Emperor Theodosius the Younger, the relics of the protomartyr Stephen was transferred to Jerusalem, to Constantinople, and then placed in the church of the Holy Deacon Lawrence. And then there was a particular church built in honor of St. Stephen, and those relics were transferred there on August 2nd. St. Stephen's right hand is preserved in the Serapianov chamber of the Trinity Sergius Lavra. Well, that sounds Russian. So eventually Stephen's right hand got to Russia. I don't know about the rest of them. But I think the coolest part of this whole story today is just that Gamaliel himself, the teacher of Paul, the one who shows up in the book of Acts and tells them to lay off the apostles, he buried St. Stephen so he wouldn't be gobbled up by the beasts and the birds. Pretty cool. Thank you, Gamaliel. That's awesome. All right. We're going to tell a little story, then we're going to be done for the day. Story that has to do with my name in college. And it goes like this. So I went to Covenant College, which now has great food. I've been up there to eat, and the food is excellent. But 30 years ago when I was at Covenant College, 40 years ago, 45 years ago, good gosh, food's terrible, just awful. And we complained about it. What are you going to do? And what do you know? Well, my friend Mickey, you're out there, shout out. He transferred to Covenant in his second year. In his first year, he went to Messiah College. And he kept telling us how Messiah College had incredible food, awesome food. He loved the food at Messiah College, and he wondered why the food was so terrible at Covenant College. And he would talk about it all the time. And me being who I am, I decided I was going to take action on this. I'll do something about it. So I called up the company that did the food for Messiah College. I forgot the name of the company now. But I called them up and I said, hey, I'm Dean Arnold, and I want you guys to come down here and see if you can do the food for us, because the food provider's terrible. And I end up talking to this guy, and we talked for a while, and he asked me for more information, that sort of thing. And by cracky, the next day, this representative of that food company from like Pennsylvania, I forget where they were from, but up north somewhere, far away, he drives up in a rental car. The next day, they sent an executive to fly down to Chattanooga, rent a car, come up to Covenant College. I met him there on the circle, and he got out, and I went up and shook his hand. I said, "Hi, I'm Dean Arnold." He says, "You're Dean Arnold?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm a student here. I'm president of the junior class or something. I forgot what I was." And I got a couple of the presidents and vice presidents of the college to meet with the guy. They didn't seem very interested. And not a whole lot happened. I was hopeful, but nah, stuck in their ways, or somebody's cousin probably had the business. Anyway, it didn't work out. So the food stayed bad. But it wasn't until, a few weeks later, a few months later, that it finally dawned on me why me as a college kid just picking up the phone and calling some company in the north, they immediately flew somebody down and we tried to make something happen. The reason is because my name is Dean Arnold, and they thought I was a dean at the college. They thought I had some authority. They thought I had some strokes, some slides, some swag. No, I was just a student with the name Dean. So Dean Arnold made the call, but Dean Arnold was not what they got when they showed up. Kind of funny. Not that great of a story. A little bit funny. The only reason I'm telling it here is because I'm running for Congress. My name's Dean Arnold, and I want to get name recognition. So I'm just telling the story because we got some name recognition going on. Questions and comments, welcome. I'm about to sign out here, guys, on a short podcast. Like, share, subscribe. I'm bringing sanity to an insane world. I am the dean of sanity right here. You're looking at him. yeah, we are, I think, good to go. So this has been a good podcast. Thank you for listening. We've had some scriptures, we've had some lectionary, we've had some saints, sort of, kind of. And now, we got one comment just coming in. I've always loved that story. And I'll bring it up. It's my mother. Thank you, mother. I like that story too. It's a funny story. But yeah, we're good. Any other last minute questions or comments? Bring them on, because we're about to head out of here, and then we're gonna hit it tomorrow. I've got a pretty intense topic for tomorrow. If not the next day, we'll have to wait and see. But sometime next week, I'm going to do a podcast about pornography. Ugh. Don't want to do it, but somebody's got to do it, because it is just like super, super prevalent, and it's really ripping the heart out of a lot of really wonderful, godly young men. So it's a subject that needs to be addressed. So stay tuned on that. And otherwise, I think we're ready to go. Let me bring up the music, which I have been bad at, but now
Dean Arnold.
Got some ZZ Top lovers who like that other thing that I played.